ready to go?
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being here today. 48 hours later, it's time to move on with life. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, we got to focus on now. I think it's awesome that our kids get an opportunity to focus on their academics a little bit this week. With Thanksgiving being later, everything kind of creeps up on you. Usually you got 3 weeks between the Cat Grizz game and finals. This year it's 2 weeks, and so I think it's a real blessing for our guys to be able to dig in a little bit on their schoolwork as we get down the stretch. Finals week will be the week that we play our next opponent, and so for them to be able to have this time this week to focus on school is going to be big. Like I told them, there's 3 things that this week is all about. Number 1 is family, our internal family, and hopefully those guys get an opportunity to get and spend some time with their family over Thanksgiving. School, dig in on the academic piece and remember why you're here. And then lastly, focus on us between the white lines, our fundamentals, our DNA, and just sharpening the saw a little bit as we get ready for either Central Connecticut State or the University of Albany. And so that's kind of where we're at, and happy to take any questions.
Having a bye, did you know right away how you wanted to spend the week, or did you kind of have to figure that out?
No, definitely. It's one of those things, that's part of my job. I got to think about the stuff that I don't want anybody else thinking about. I want the coaches focusing on their individual roles and responsibilities. I want the players focusing on their individual roles and responsibilities. My job is to look ahead. And so I've had some conversations with a number of people. Courtney Messingham, obviously being on the North Dakota State staff for the last couple of years, he kind of shared what their bye week schedule is because they're going to get one every year, it seems like. And so they have a lot of experience with that. I talked to Jay Hill at Weber State about how he's handled it. And so we kind of put the pieces together in a way that I think works for us and gives our guys the appropriate amount of time off. We met this morning. We had a team lift and did meetings, put the Montana game to bed. And tomorrow we'll have kind of a normal Tuesday. The only difference being we're not doing opponent prep, so it's kind of good on good in our team periods and also letting our young guys get after it a little bit. And then Wednesday we'll have a morning practice. We'll be done about 10:30, and then the kids will have off from then until Saturday afternoon. We'll come back, have some team meetings. By then we should actually know who our opponent is, and we can do a quick intro and then get a practice, about a 15 to 17 period practice in. So that's kind of what our plan is right now.
Is it hard to balance 2 potential opponents? Would you try to dig in on them?
Well, what we've done is Garrett's done a great job of getting some tape on each team, and we've kind of divided each staff. And so we've got a couple guys that are looking at Central Connecticut and a couple guys that are looking at Albany. They're preparing some preliminary game prep information for us, scouting report, kind of this team at a glance type of stuff. And then we'll sit on that, have that done by Wednesday, and come back on Saturday as a staff. And by then, like I said, by Saturday afternoon, we should have a pretty good idea who our opponent is with the game being played on the East Coast. And then we'll roll that out and start digging in.
With the performance you had on Saturday, how much of the film do you watch? Do the players watch any of that film? What do you kind of gain from some of that?
Oh, I'm sure they've watched it a bunch. Yeah, you never have to worry about them watching themselves, that's for sure. So, I think there's always things that you can learn from a game like that. I think there were some things that stood out to me as not so positive. One of them was our ball security. We put the ball on the ground a number of times. Very fortunate in that first drive to recover 2, and then even Logan got popped by Dante going out of bounds later in the game. And so that was one of the things that we definitely need to talk about and work on. We do every Sunday, and it was Monday this week because we had our banquet yesterday. Every Sunday we kind of do what we call the good, the bad, and the ugly, where for each phase the coordinator gets caught up and says, here's some stats that were good, some things that we didn't do very well, and some things that we really got to improve upon. And then we show the film to the team as a whole. And I think that's helpful because it's good from an accountability standpoint. The offense has to own and be responsible for what they did to the defense, good and bad. And I think all 3 phases, it helps the kids to learn, hey, this is how we work together as a team to have success. And so we kind of went through that this morning, and they'll, like I said, I'm sure watch they get their grade sheets and they watch and take pride in what they need to do. And that's where we kind of left it.
Rivalry week obviously is very emotional. Is it hard to reset that, like the day or 2 after?
I slept really well last night for the first time in a while, and so that felt really good. I have a lot more energy and feel a lot better physically than I did last week. And even Josh, you always know how Josh is feeling by how his hair looks and his facial expressions. And so this morning I was like, Joshy, how we doing, bud? And he goes, I feel good. Got some sleep last night. It's funny. I was asking our guys, what'd you guys do after the game? Man, I went to bed. So I think there was a lot of emotion spent on that, and it's good to now be able to catch our breath a little bit, focus on those three things I talked about earlier, and then look forward to our next challenge.
What did you think of the Big Sky getting 4 seeds? Of those 4 seeds, I think 12 of the losses came from FBS teams. The other 6 losses came from
Within the Big Sky.
Each other. So what did you think of the kind of unbalanced nature of the schedule? This seems to have played out in the right way for the Big Sky. What did you see?
Obviously, I think it's awesome for our league, and we're very excited to be one of the teams that got one of those 4 seeds from the Big Sky. It's an interesting, I don't know if this is a trend, where you're seeing more balance in FCS football. I think that me kind of being somewhat new to this, forever there's this upper echelon of teams, and for a long time it was a 16-team tournament, and so you kind of have this group of teams that is kind of punching their ticket every single year, and now it seems like there's more parity conference to conference. Certainly in the Big Sky Conference there is, but you look at the CAA and it's the same way. You look at the OVC, you look at the Missouri Valley, there's still going to be some top tier teams, but there's more balance, and I think that these bigger conferences I think have an impact on that too. So you've got 13 teams in some of these conferences like we have, and you're playing an unbalanced schedule, and so some of it is who you play, when you play them, that type of thing, and then some of it is also just, I think, better overall coaching. I was talking with Leon a while ago. I mean, you look at the Big Sky Conference. I mean, look at the coaching in this league. The head coaches in this league. I think there's 5 former Division I FBS Power 5 coordinators that are coaching in this league right now, and I think that says a lot about the caliber of recruiting that you're getting. And I think I'm probably wrong. There's probably 6 actually. The caliber of recruiting that you're getting, the caliber of coaching, the ability to mentor and coach young coaches who become superstars in their own right. And I think that's just that's where we're at out here. You go in the West Coast, where are you going to go? Not every Pac-12 assistant is going to get a Mountain West job. So if you really want to be a head coach, you kind of got to look to the Big Sky Conference. And I think this has become an impressive and challenging place to coach.
I think since the end of last year, you were talking about getting a first round bye. Just kind of how happy are you that you were able to accomplish that goal as a team?
Yeah, you got to stretch yourself in terms of your goals and your aspirations, and you can't just put the low-hanging fruit out there and grab it. And our guys in the off season, we talked a lot about what we wanted to accomplish, and certainly, that Big Sky Conference title is an important part of that. And we stubbed our toe in North Dakota, and we stubbed our toe against Sac State. We got beat by 2 teams that deserved to win that day, and unfortunately, we didn't control our own destiny in terms of winning every home game because we lost to Sacramento State. We didn't control our own destiny in terms of the Big Sky Conference because of a loss to North Dakota. So those things weren't available to us. But one thing that was really important to us that was still out there was that first round bye. And we were able to achieve that goal. And that's a lofty goal because you do have to be one of the top 8 teams in somebody's eyes in the country to be able to achieve that. And so very proud of our ability to do that. I think it's meaningful, impactful for the growth of our program. I think it's a logical next step for us in terms of learning how to play in this tournament and learning how to win in this tournament. And as I mentioned earlier, it gives our guys so much of an advantage in terms of being able to sink in, relax a little bit, get a little bit more healthy physically, emotionally, recharge, and then focus on school.
How do you think Tucker Ovig has just handled some of the ups and downs throughout the season?
Yeah, he's been awesome. I mean, I pulled Tucker and Casey aside before we went to UC Davis, and I just said, and it was a little bit of emotional even for me. I said, I just want to say thank you to you 2 guys for being who you are. I mean, you talk about team players. Casey was our starter at the beginning of the year, won that competition in fall camp. Didn't play the way he wanted to play, didn't play the way we needed him to play. We made a change at quarterback. Well, sometimes Tucker's the guy, sometimes he's not the guy because we throw Troy in there and we throw, Kevin Cassis in there and we throw Travis Johnson in there. And all he's done is win a bunch of games for us. That's all he's done. He's never complained about his role. He's never come in and said, Coach, we need to throw the ball more. What do I need to do to help this team win? And I think he's improved every week over the last month of the season. His completion percentage has gotten higher. His decision-making has gotten better. His command of the offense has improved. I think he's looked to as a leader now. And I just think that that's a hard thing to do. Everybody wants to be the man, right? Everybody wants to be the man. But it takes a special group of kids and a special group of individuals like we talked about with Tucker and Casey. But this team is awesome like that. And everybody's good sharing the wealth as long as we get the W. And so whether it was, Isaiah stepping up and doing what he had to do or Tucker doing what he had to do 2 weeks ago against Davis in terms of, hey, we're going to have to throw the ball here to win some. no problem. Let's go do it. What do you need me to do, Coach? Let's go. And so I just have a ton of respect for those two guys for how they've handled a high-profile position, which is open to a lot of criticism, and they've just done their job. And I just think that's maybe an underrated thing about our success this year.
And how about Tucker's command in the game on Saturday? Just kind of handling that moment and really doing everything you needed him to do.
Yeah, and I think that's where he's really grown the most. I think there's been some big games where, he was, North Dakota, for whatever reason, he was really geeked up for that game. And I don't think it helped him. And I think he's learned from that. And he knows that, hey, I need you to be the quarterback, not the middle linebacker. I'll go headbutt people, you calm down. And that works. And so he just played with a lot of poise on Saturday.
What are the key factors of how you turn the corner this last month?
You just don't look ahead, man. You control what you can control. I think that's probably the best thing that we do is don't back a bobcat into the corner. I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. We'll focus. We'll do what we have to do, block the outside noise out, and just remember that all we can control is what we do right now in terms of our preparation, our energy, our effort, and don't get consumed with, well, what if? All these projections. Well, hey, what if this happens, then this happens? It doesn't matter. If you don't win this rep, none of that's going to take place anyway. So stay in the moment, live in the now, and let's just go get it done. And I think our staff has done an amazing job of getting that message through to young men, because that is not easy for an 18 to 22-year-old young man to do. I mean, they're always thinking about what's next, right? And for them to be able to just kind of stay in their lane, do their job, and be committed to each other, I think has been a big part of that success.
O-line, D-line, you said that's where it all starts. Just how pleased are you with how they've done in recent weeks, especially last week?
I think obviously they had a big game on both sides, and we've had a good season. We've had some games that we didn't play as well as we'd like to in those areas, but I think about who we are as a team, and I think we're one of the least penalized teams in the Big Sky Conference. That speaks to discipline, as well as top 3 in the turnover margin, which speaks to discipline. Okay, and so those are two things that good football teams do. They don't always put up flashy numbers, but good football teams don't beat themselves. They don't get penalized in crucial situations, and they don't give the opponent the ball. And so we've been very good at that. And then other things that good football teams do and playoff caliber football teams do is they're capable of running the football regardless of the weather conditions. They play good defense, and they're sound in the kicking game. And I think that when you look at that's kind of our model right now for why this team is, I think, performing well down the stretch. Because a lot of times what happens is you play really good early in the season and you feel good about it. Well, we had our October to forget, right? We did. And we dropped 2 games, had the bye in between. It seemed like forever between the Sac State game and the North Dakota game. And then it seemed like forever again before we got an opportunity to go play in November. And I think that in a weird way, as much as we regret maybe some of those mistakes, those helped us to refocus and focus on some things that we needed to do better to become more diverse in our run game, to put more pressure on defenses instead of just relying on running inside zone, to modify some of the things that we were doing defensively and not be so predictable in certain down and distances. And I think that was as painful as it was, I think it has helped us to play well in November.
I know you'll probably get a chance to talk to some of the coaches about all league stuff, but up front you guys have been able to run the ball so well. Outside of stats, how do you quantify offensive line play to the rest of the league who may not watch it all the time?
Yeah, and that's the hard thing about our league, because I think when you play a team head-to-head, you're looking at that going, man, that 63 is pretty good, whether it's in preparation for that game or after you watch the game. And then you have a measuring stick of, hey, this is how this young man compared to the other guys that we were watching to prepare against and play against. And that's one of the challenges in our league, and that's one of the things that we talked about today. We actually had that phone conversation this morning. And everybody kind of goes around, and you get a feel for how important certain guys are to certain coaches by how passionate they are and how hard they pound the table. But I think it comes down to watch the tape. I really think that's what you got to do with the offensive line group is you got to watch them and how do they play against really good competition, how do they play week in and week out. And in order for that to happen, unfortunately, a lot of times you got to play that team. They got to be in your rotation. And so it's hard in this league. I think everybody's got good players here in this conference. Obviously, it's a very competitive league. And everybody feels passionately about their players, which they should. And so it makes those conversations interesting and makes those decisions difficult because you want to make sure that kids get the recognition they deserve.
And when you turn on the film, what do you see with Mitch Brott, and what do you hope other coaches see from a guy like 63?
I mean, he finishes. That's what he does. I mean, he's a good technical blocker, But the thing that separates him is just his desire, as he likes to say, to move one man from point A to point B against his will. And he's been a dominant player. He really has. I think when I see him play, that's what I think. I think this guy's a dominant offensive lineman. He's not just a guy that's doing his job and is capable of getting his body between the man and that wants it in the ball. He's dominating other people, and that's an impressive thing for an offensive lineman.
Thanksgiving, what's that look like for guys that don't necessarily go home? What's that look like in Bozeman?
Yeah, so we had obviously a lot of Montana kids, and we just try to, with so many kids getting a chance to maybe get out of town, whether they're going to leave on Wednesday afternoon after practice and get back on Saturday morning, or they're going to drive home for Thanksgiving. So we'll kind of farm everybody out. Everybody will spend some time with somebody's family, one of the coaches' families, one of our local players' families, and take a deep breath and relax, not think about anything besides what's on the TV, I guess, and take a nap. But I think that's going to be a nice break for everybody.
You mentioned team health. You think having that bye is just pretty big in terms of getting healthy, especially this time of year.
I think it's not just I kind of mentioned this a minute ago. I don't think it's just the physical part of this. I think there's a lot of emotional fatigue that goes into this. And I felt that last year. We kind of rode the wave of the Cat Grizz win into a first-round playoff game at home. But once we got done with that, man, we got back on Monday after that Incarnate Word game, and our guys were gassed. Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally drained. And I think that having this chance to just kind of get away from it for a couple of days even is going to be beneficial for our guys. They'll come back hopefully more fresh and excited.
Any update on Troy?
We'll kind of see. I think he really wanted to play on Saturday. He really wanted to play, and he just wasn't ready. And we're hopeful. He heals fast, and he's been able to work through a lot of this type of stuff in the past. So we're obviously very hopeful. But to the point that Colt was making, it's advantageous for us to get some time here. Good.
Can you speak just one more, just to the overall success that the athletic department has had throughout this fall semester, not just with football, but with everything?
Yeah, it's a good time to be a Bobcat. I think that there's a lot of, I think the growth of the university, the growth of the community, how dynamic this Gallatin Valley is right now. It's just timing is everything in sports. It really is. You can be the right guy at the wrong place, and it's not going to work. At the wrong time, it's not going to work. You can even be the wrong guy, but if it's the right time, things are going to go. And I think that we've got really good synergy. I think we've got a dynamic leader in our president. I think we've got a good relationship between the head football coach and the athletic director, which I think is totally underrated in athletic success. Because if those two guys are butting heads all the time, everybody else sees it. It becomes one of those things where everybody, I go walking down the hall one way and Leon's coming the other, and you got the other coaches and they're ducking into doorways, and it's not like that at all. I think that we have a common vision for what we want this place to be, and I think Trish is a part of that, and Danny's a part of that, and all of our other coaching staff and administration is pulling on the same rope, and I think that's one of the things that's leading to some of the good vibes that we're feeling in Bozeman right now. So let's keep riding the wave.